Hello everybody, welcome back to English for Airlines again. Last week we have talked about the check-in processes and I asked you guys to do the practice of check-in process. I have seen you guys' video and it's really impressed me because even though the aim of this assignment, the video assignment, is created to help you guys to understand more about the ground handling processes, but you guys put a lot of efforts into it. You guys do it very well without being counted as one of your grade. So I hope that what we have done will return you a good outcome in the future. So in this week, we will go through chapter 5, the rest content that we still left, and chapter 6 cargo services. For the chapter 6 cargo services, I already uploaded the chapter, the PDF file in our Google Drive. You can check there. Oh, and the chapter 6 cargo services is the last chapter before we are going to have our midterm exam. And once again, to inform you, the midterm exam will include from chapter 1, Introduction to Airline Industry, until chapter 6 that we are going to study this week, chapter 6 cargo services. About the form of our midterm examination will be posted in our Facebook group soon. And to remind you guys again, next week we are going to have our simulation test, which will be 15% of your grade. The simulation test is a test that will put you to airline-like situation. So we will do it in 4 situations, which are booking flight, changing flight, and check-in. And the last one is boarding announcement. During the simulation test, you have to remember the announcement. So we won't have script for you. So you guys will be put into the group of 2 people. You can match your partner by yourself. So if you already grouped into the group but you haven't booked your time slot for test, the simulation test, I ask you please do so within today. The link of the booking time slot is already posted in our Facebook group. So, in a group of 2 people, students will be tested in about the ground handling services. You will be tested whether you have the clear understanding about the ground service or not. You will be tested whether you will be tested on the English language that you use, whether it is polite, whether it's acceptable and suitable for that situation or not. And the role for staff and passenger will be assigned for you at that time. So that is to say, you don't have to prepare first whether you will be the staff or the passenger. I will assign it for you at that time. Also, you will be graded in about the emergency case. Actually, it's not that emergency. It's kind of like the challenges. Let's say it's challenge situation. So, you will be graded on how well you solve that kind of problem, and you will be graded on your English that you use through that kind of situation. The emergency case could be like the case that passenger would like to changing their flight. What if passenger forget their identification document? What if passengers have their baby with them through their flight? So how well you resolve that kind of situation, you will be graded on that and your English language as well. So today we will talk about that kind of challenge or emergency situation within today. So with no further ado, let's continue our chapter 5 that we left last week. So we still haven't talked about the topic time zone. So let's get started. So about time zone, it is important for airline staff to know the time zones because since airline is an industry that is related with travel from place to place, which in our world we have different time. That is to say, people who live in Thailand are in a different time zone, different local time when we compare with people who live in the UK or Australia. So the world is divided into 24 time zones. Time zones are generally centered on meridians. The meridian is a line of 0 degrees of longitude that divide between the western and the eastern part. Since there are 24 time zones, each time zones equal 1 hour. The international date line, which was drawn by agreement among countries, are located in zone 12, which opposite to Greenwich. Then, when we go from east to west, you should remove the time from the local time. But when we go from west to east, you should add more time to the local time, to the difference of the local time. So, the time zones are a number +1, +2, up to +12 going eastwards, and -1, -2, up to -12 going westwards. The time zone, which is called Greenwich Mean Time or GMT, is located at 0. So, when we compare time zone, we will compare Greenwich Mean Time or GMT or Coordinated Universal Time or UTC. For example, Bangkok is located in +7 time zone. This is mean that Thailand is in the east of Greenwich and 7 hours ahead of GMT or UTC time. So let's say that if GMT or UTC is 12 hours or at noon, at that time, the time in Bangkok is 7 p.m. Or another example, Seattle is located in -8 time zone, so which means that if the time in GMT or UTC is 4 p.m. in the evening, so the time of the Seattle will be 8 o'clock in the morning -8. That is to say, to determine what time it is in another time zone, you must either remove or add time depending on whether the area is the east or the west of the Greenwich. So, in order to calculate the time zone, first, you should know the time at the area where you live first. Next, find the time zone that you want to calculate and then count on how many time zones away it is from where you live. Then, determine whether the new time zone is east or west, minus or plus. So, if it is east, you have to add 1 hour from the time zone away from where you are. But if it is west, you should remove 1 hour for each time zone away. For example, if it is 8 a.m. in where you are and you go 3 time zone east means that you have to add 1 hour, so which means you have to add 3 hours to 8 a.m., right? So you add 3 to 8 and then you get 11 a.m. in a new time zone. But if it is west, so it should be -3, right? So it would be 8 minus 3 for a time of 5 a.m. So using that simple formula will help you to know the time zone or what time it is in another time zones. So there is an exercise in page 78. I would like you to do this exercise as your homework. You have to use the provided map in the page 78 to answer the question in that page. So the mission is that if it is 2 p.m. in Thailand, what time is it in the following places in page 78? When you finish, you can check your answer in our Google Drive. You don't have to submit me. Then, let's move to another topic, our last topic in chapter 6. Again, I already uploaded the file in our Google Drive. You can check there. So, the topic in chapter 6 is cargo services. Air cargo or air freight refer to all cargo moved by air except for mail or passenger baggage. That is to say, this service focuses on the transport of items from one situation to another assigned situation through the air. There are 2 types of this service, which are integrated express carriers and passenger and cargo combination airlines. Combination airlines may carry their item in the belly space of passenger aircraft. Some combination airlines may also call as combi aircraft. However, the integrated express carrier mainly sell capacity to shippers directly, for example, FedEx or DHL or UPS. So FedEx, UPS, or DHL, they will not provide any passenger services. So, in this class, and it is English for Airline, we will mainly focus on the vocabulary, the airline vocabulary that is found in the cargo services. So, you can find the information in page 80. So, let's have a look at some words. For example, airway bill or air bill, which refer to the contract carriage that contains the information, the shipping instruction to the airlines. Or next, allowable cabin load or ACL, which refer to the maximum payload weight that can be carried on an airplane. Or baggage, which is the passenger's personal property, which should be divided into two types, which are checked baggage. Checked baggage is the luggage that the passenger load under the cabin, load in the belly of the passenger aircraft. So the passenger cannot access these checked baggage throughout the flight. But another type of the baggage, passenger baggage, for example, carry-on baggage. Carry-on baggage is a piece of luggage that can be brought on board with the passenger, and the passenger will put this in the overhead compartment, or we can call it overhead bin. Or sometimes passengers can put carry-on luggage under the seat of the passenger. So there are a lot of vocabulary that I would like you guys to go through, and I have listed and identified the meaning, the definition of each vocabulary already. So please study it carefully, since this will be in your midterm exam and your simulation test, maybe about baggage. So the next topic in page 81 that we are going to talk about is airway bill. So in page 81, you will see the example of airway bill. So it is important for airline staff to be able to understand the airway bill, the contract between the airline and the shipper. So let's have a look at some important part of the airway bill. For example, the second part of the DHL airway bill here. In this second part, it will tell you about the from. So from will tell you about the shipper detail, the one who sent the item. In this part, it provides you about the name of the shipper's company, the postcode, or the contact information of the shipper. In case there are some problems that you can deliver to the receiver, then you can contact the shipper. So the third part here will show you about the information of the receiver. Sometimes it will show as consignee instead. So consignee refers to receiver. So in this part, it provides you about the receiver's name, receiver company, address, or other information that is related to the delivery things or items to the receiver. And then in the fourth section of the airway bill, which is shipment detail, it's a bit unclear here. That is the clearest picture that I can find. So in this part, it will provide you the number of pieces in the shipment. How many pieces? So how much weight? How much the size of the shipment? So the details about that you will check it in the shipment details here. So that's all for chapter 6, which is our last chapter before the midterm exam. So next in page 83 and 84, I have summarized the information that we have gone through from chapter 1 to chapter 6. I wish this could help you to at least about your first simulation test and your midterm examination. So it's not since this is summarized part, I'm not going to go through the detail. So it's gonna be point by point, bullet point. So if you don't understand any point, you can look back at each chapter. So let's go through at some points such as the emergency cases which will appear in your first simulation. So there are 3 challenge situations that will appear in your first simulation test. The first one is in the changing ticket. So during this process, the challenge in airline industry is that it's really hard to find a new route for the passenger, which might cost the changing fee, or you might have to negotiate with passenger a lot that the new flight that the passenger would like to fly to, the fee might be a little bit expensive or it might be crowded. So, this is one of the challenge situations. Or when passenger would like to require additional seat or meals before their flight, so which you need to inform the fee as well. Next, the second challenge is during the check-in process. So during the check-in process, there might be many challenges occurring during this time. So for example, passenger might forget to bring their important document, for example, their passport. So in this case, you might have to ask passenger whether they have any other identified document, such as their driving license or their identification card. Even student identification cards or soft copy of the identification card sometimes are acceptable. However, if there is no identified document, passengers can contact police at the airport in order to get the identified document. Another frequently occur challenge during the check-in process is that passenger has the overweight checked bag. So in this case, the airline staff has to ask passengers to repack their baggage in order to be loaded in the belly part of the aircraft. Because in order to take off the aircraft, the weight is really important since it's related to security issue of that aircraft. And the last one, spatial passenger. So spatial passenger, as it names spatial passengers are needed to be taken care spatially. Actually, there are many types of spatial passengers, but in this class, we will focus on the 2 main basic spatial passengers, which are infant and expectant mother. So the first one, infant. Infant refer to any children at the age below 2 years old. They cannot travel alone. They have to have their own parents to travel together, and infants have no claim for their own passenger seat. These type of passenger, the airline might have to take special care for this type of passenger by block a seat next to the adult if the flight is not fully booked, or might have to prepare some services for carry the stroller. And the second one is expectant mothers. Expectant mother, for their well-being, passengers who are pregnant need to complete the pregnancy form for the airline before boarding the aircraft. So if the expectant mother, like you are about to carry the baby, so sometimes airlines will not allow you to get on board. So that's all for this chapter, the chapter this week. So if you have any question, you can send it through the live below. And yes, next we will have question and answer session. Let's go.